This is part A of the Kudilar television channel being broadcast on the internet under the banner of Baby Angel Geronimo Manifesto Editions. This is timed at 07:20 GMT, London within quotation marks UK, Thursday the 20th of June 2024. This morning's Daily Mail, London newspaper, uh, an extremely poisonous, racist, lying newspaper, does the unusual thing of giving George Git Galloway a very uncritical promotion. And it is on page 10 of the Daily Mail, published under Election 2024. And the heading is Speaking Without Notes. It seemed Galloway might give us the full Castro, within quotation marks, who used to talk for 4 hours. That's a reference to Fidel Castro of Cuba. And it's a banner Westminster sketch by Quentin Letts. Now, it's not from Westminster. It's from Rochdale, where the events that Letts talks about took place, including the fact that his much younger wife, Gayatri, closed her eyes and nodded like someone chewing a goodish custard tart. During one mauve passage, a member of the audience shouted an evangelical yes. And it is totally devoted to a promotion of George Galloway. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 columns. And he says that Galloway wore a not very laundered jacket. Whatever happened to George Galloway's money? He's not wearing properly laundered coats, according to this account. So it says, to Manchester's gay village for the manifesto launch of the Workers' Party of Great Britain. Few of George Galloway's Lancashire mosque elders ventured into such a decadent part of town. Silly old them, the Mr. Cracker. Mr. Galloway, the party's supreme leader, made a trenchant, note-free speech of such effortless breadth that it seemed we might be in for a full Fidel, Cuba's late president. Castro could talk for 4.5 hours. We were told to expect now reading that paragraph again, because I've missed one line, I think. Mr. Galloway the Workers' Party Supreme Leader made a trenchant, note-free speech of such effortless breadth that it seemed we might be in for a full Fidel. Cuba's late president, Castro, could talk for 4.5 hours. Discussion ranged from military war, which we were told to expect by December if Sir Keir Starmer became Prime Minister, to various references to backsides. We also heard demands for a referendum on the Mauritanian monarchy, with Mr. Galloway backing Princess Anne to be the country's first president. Having met the princess, the Oliver Cromwell of Rochdale adjudged that she came up to scratch. Oh, and Britain needed a public laundry service. This, he noted, was a policy taken from the 1945 manifesto of a certain C.R. Attlee. It doesn't bear thinking how many socks a nationalized laundrette might mislay. We were on the 9th floor of a new hotel. If attendance was slight, it was possibly because a fire alarm had just cleared the building. Blithely arriving 15 minutes late, Mr. Galloway called his manifesto a very beautiful document. Now, this late arrival by George Galloway brings to mind Galloway's habit. Galloway is a discourteous, disrespectful arrival. When he arrived at the rally organized by the Khudila campaign and being led by me in March 2006, Git Galloway came about half an hour late, or even more than half an hour late. He didn't have the courtesy or the decency to apologize, nor did he acknowledge the Khudila campaign organizing the rally, nor did he explain why he was late. George Gate Galloway is not a transparent, grateful member of the careerists. George Gate Galloway didn't even know the area, the Brick Lane area in the constituency that he was supposedly representing between the elections of 2005 until the election of 2010. George Gate Galloway spoke in the House of Commons with contempt for the constituency, because he said the constituency that at that time called Bethnal Green and Bow, he was there as the Member of Parliament for Bethnal Green and Bow as a detour. This is on the record in the House of Commons Hansard proceedings of the 19th of July 2006. The 2005, Throughout the 5 years that he was in post, George Gid Galloway struggled to show any real political relevance, parliamentary relevance to the needs of the people of the constituency. The only noticeable thing that George Gid Galloway did during 2005 and 2010, only consistent thing that he did, the only consistent thing that he was witnessed as doing was collecting the checks from the many envelopes that arrived at the Respect Party postal address in Club Row, London E2. And the most dedicated way that he handled the envelopes was to make sure that he picked up the checks, and continuously he put all the checks into his own pocket. To this day, there has been no publication of the amount of money that George Galloway pocketed, nor a publication about the purposes of which the money was obviously sent to that address. So George Gid Galloway is not somebody that is indifferent to money. In fact, he is totally dedicated to money. As the BBC Newsnight program correctly published, that published broadcast remains unchallenged by George Gid Galloway. In contrast to the libel action that he did actually take against the Daily Telegraph, as compared to the contents of the assertions contained in the Newsnight program, the Telegraph piece was very, very, very thin, and yet the Telegraph publication was followed by Galloway suing the paper and actually getting damages paid. The damages must have been substantial. Galloway then was able to spend money for the election that he stood at in 2005 for the Bethnal Green and Burke constituency. Whatever happens on the 4th of July 2024, it is not possible to predict whether Gid Galloway will get elected again for Rochdale. But whatever happens, the media, it seems, are not examining the record of George Gid Galloway, either as a member of parliament for more than one separate Scottish constituencies, or as a member of parliament for Bethnal Green and Burke, or as a member of parliament for Bradford West. And going by the evidence contained in the newspapers, including the Daily Mail, the newspapers are not interested in examining George Gid Galloway's records at Rochdale. Before Parliament was prorogued and he ceased to be a member of Parliament because the election has been called. Over at the Times newspaper today, there is a very detailed piece promoting the Romanian-born George Iacobescu. Iacobescu is trending down as the main person behind Canary Wharf, which is physically situated in the London borough of Tower Hamlets, in the Limehouse area. Iacobescu doesn't mention any of the links that he has established over the last 25 years with the mental slaves being supplied by the so-called Muslim part of the demography in Tower Hamlets. The whole piece in the Times is about the expansion of Canary Wharf and the City of London into one. And looking at the map, looking at the actual demography, geography, I can see that they will squeeze the parts in between, including most of the Brick Lane, Whitechapel area. There is so far no evidence of any awareness of any of this prospect on the part of the so-called ethnicity-linked outlets. The latest fortnightly private lie, which is dated from tomorrow, that is 21st of June 2024, has got a piece in the Rotten Boroughs section about a former Tower Hamlets councillor, Vice Islam, who, according to that piece, is standing as a Member of Parliament candidate for Holborn and St. Pancras, the constituency of Keir Starmer. It says that Vice Islam described the East London idiotizer reporter Ted Jory as a peasant and a Jew. Vice Islam's wife is a sitting Labour Party councillor on Tower Hamlets Council, according to the piece in the Rotten Boroughs column. There is no reference to Vice Islam doing anything for the community, nor is there anything in the reference to Ted Jory about the corruption that Tower Hamlets Council is and remains and had been. This is 07:18 hours GMT on Thursday, 20th of June 2024. This has been part A of the Khudila television channel. We shall be continuing in later editions, either today or in the next 24 hours. This has been just over 19 minutes long, this broadcast video.